Hi, I'm Delroy Alexander, the chair of Sacred Sports Foundation, based here in St. Lucia. Welcome to episode 7 of That Moment When. TMW is a chance for youth in the Caribbean to vibe about issues that relate to them. Each and every week we hope to speak to young people in the region about things that matter to them, and we hope that you will continue to join us. This podcast is kindly supported by the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. Today we have a special guest from the program's principal financial supporter, the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. It's a pleasure to welcome Her Excellency, High Commissioner of Canada to Barbados and the OECS, Lilian Chatterjee.
Hi, I'm Lilian Chatterjee, and I'm the Canadian High Commissioner for St. Lucia. High Commissioner, in case you don't know what that means, is basically I'm an ambassador, and I represent Canada here in St. Lucia.
And why are you in St. Lucia right now?
First of all, it's your independence festivities, which I have thoroughly participated in. I went to the flag raising ceremony right till past midnight. The fireworks were stunning. I hope people got to see them. I guess you only got to see them if you were in Castries maybe, or Rodney Bay. And then the parade, I hope you saw the parade on TV and the rally. It was just wonderful experience. And now I'm taking advantage of being here to get to know people and groups and that we support, and very delighted to be here with Sacred Sports because we are very pleased to fund it through the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. And what this fund does is specifically seek out local civil society groups that wouldn't normally get funding. Some of them do, some of them get funding from elsewhere, but it's to give them that shot in the arm that they need, and we try and make it as accessible as possible. We don't give a lot of money out. It's to help them, the various groups, to get a little bit of a start so that later on they can use that as part of their history in terms of accessing funds elsewhere.
And that's exactly how we've used it. The gender awareness program, This Is Me and You, has been tremendous, very well supported. The safe spaces have been wonderful. So thanks for all of those folks. I know they'll be so happy that you're here and talking to us. The name of the podcast is That Moment When. Tell us about your moment.
I've had a few. Like you, Delroy, I used to be a journalist. This is a long time ago. You'll know how old I am when I talk about this moment when. It was the famine in Ethiopia. And I was watching on TV all these people dying. I just felt helpless, and I just thought, well, how can I be more useful? And there was a Canadian NGO that was looking for a communications person. And I applied because that was an NGO that was working in Ethiopia and elsewhere in Africa. And it was my little way of feeling part of a bigger world and a bigger project. And so that was one moment. The other moment would have been, because I never wanted to work for government. I really liked working for NGOs. I applied for this job working for the Canadian International Development Agency, CEDA. It's giving back. And I didn't know if I would enjoy it, working in government, because government seemed so impersonal to me when I was on the other side. What I realized working for CEDA, and what really made me happy, was that I realized that I could have much more impact supporting others and people that I would probably never ever see in my life, but knowing that supporting them would make a difference in their lives. So that was another big moment for me. Now, coming here as an ambassador, it's such a thrill for me to be able to actually see the projects. That's what I enjoy more than anything. I do a lot on the political side, on the promoting trade side, and all of that, but the part I enjoy the most is getting out there, meeting people where they are and what they do, and learning about them and learning how our support makes a difference for them.
What is it about development work that engages you? What is it that makes you gravitate towards that? Because both of your stories were about a development context,
yes.
And it's clear you have a passion for that.
I do have a passion for it, and I think it is seeing people empower themselves. That's what it's about, right? I don't take credit. I'm just a catalyst, and I enjoy being a catalyst. I think I have realized that is my mission in life, is to be a catalyst. But it's knowing that support is empowering others to fulfill their dreams, fulfill their destiny. That's what really makes me excited.
I can definitely empathize with that. We often describe ourselves as catalysts, that the joy is kind of lighting a fire under other people and seeing them go on and do amazing things. Tell me a little bit about your own upbringing, your own development. You've obviously seeded. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I was born in India. My family immigrated to Canada when I was a child, so I don't really remember India that way. Grew up in Montreal and just love Canada. I don't mind the cold at all or the winter. I love Canada. And Canada has provided me so much opportunity to develop into who I am. And it's a very multicultural country, very accepting of different cultures, different religions, different languages, different lived experiences. And so for me, it's a real privilege, and I mean that, a privilege to be representing Canada. I feel so honored to be able to do that. Wherever I go, when I say I'm Canadian, whether they know I'm an ambassador or not, people receive Canadians very warmly. And I love being in the Caribbean because people here are so warm, so hospitable, so generous in spirit. So it's a real connection for me to be in St. Lucia, where people are just amazingly friendly and warm and kind. And then when you start to unpack things and learn how tough life can be for some of them, and yet they can be warm and friendly, that is so amazing, that they can transcend all that.
Yes, the sense that certainly our youth and the folks that we work with have that resilience to be able to weather things that I'm not sure I could.
Yeah, or me.
It really is something that inspires us. Tell me a little bit more about the CFLI program, and who else are you working with in St. Lucia?
Well, last year when I came, we were working with so many different groups, United and Strong, and I visited them and visited their offices, and then there's a whole bunch of groups, Girls of a Feather, Helen's Daughters. Oh, I'm going to miss out some because I'm getting older and my memory isn't as good as it used to be, but there's so many amazing local civil society organizations here, and they have such spirit and such dedication. It's such an honor to know them. Yes, we're funding Sacred Sports, but even when we're not going to be funding you, I'll be following you and really excited to see what you're doing.
Yes, and that feeling is completely mutual. We feel like we're part of the family now. Tell me a little bit about what a typical day for an ambassador looks like.
Fortunately for me, I'm not sure I have a typical day. So I'm based in Barbados, but I'm responsible for I'm accredited to 7 countries. So Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. So on any given day, I kid you not, I am probably sometimes I interact with all 7 countries, but usually it's 3 or 4 in any given day. Sometimes it's interacting with governments, sometimes it's interacting with NGOs, sometimes it's interacting with businesses, or some of our organizations in the UN family or other multilateral organizations like Caribbean Development Bank. So many organizations. But yeah, so that's what makes it interesting and exciting, because no day is similar.
Have you worked in a diplomatic role anywhere else other than the Caribbean?
Yes. Yeah, well, I was in Guyana. I was the High Commissioner of Guyana, and I was Ambassador to Suriname, and I was also CARICOM Ambassador.
Okay, so you've got a lot of experience in this region.
Yes, and I love this region. I feel very fortunate to be in this region.
Okay, and I get the sense, we were talking earlier, and I do get the sense that Canada's role in the region is expanding, that you're actively, I see a lot more funding and a lot more sort of political engagement. Is that correct?
That is correct, and one of the things you get to, what happens when you're an ambassador is you get educated by the people in the countries you're in. So the education I got by being in this region is the history and the legacy of Canada in the region. Everybody speaks very fondly of Pierre Elliott Trudeau and the support he gave. Now it's his son, Justin Trudeau, is the Prime Minister. And while he's his own person, he is very, very committed to, especially to the Caribbean region. He knows it well, he knows the issues well. And there is a natural link between people in the Caribbean and Canada. So many of you have family and friends in Canada, and as you all know, we come and visit you, especially in the winter when the snow starts and it gets cold. You'll see many of us in your country. I always say it's that people-to-people ties, whether it's the diaspora from St. Lucia that are in Canada, or the Canadians who come here, and the Canadian businesses that are here. That's what propels relations between governments, because the people want that relationship to continue. Sometimes people in government think it's all about them. It's not all about them. It's the people.
So you're doing a lot of diplomatic work in the region, but what about when you're not doing diplomatic work? What do you do to relax?
You know, I'm such a bad example. I work a bit too much, but I enjoy nature. So I don't do enough of that as I'd like, but I love to go for long walks. And lately I've been going sailing, and that is such fun. It is really, and I mean sailing as in not in a motorboat, I mean actually wind sailing. So you move with the wind, right? And so what I like about that is it's true nature, right? If there's no wind, you're not moving. And it makes you feel, and it's because I'm Canadian and Canada's got such amazing geography and nature. What I like, and I see this in St. Lucia, is you feel a very, very small person in a very big world. And it makes you appreciate the nature around you, and even more committed when we're talking about climate change and resilience. That's a different kind of resilience, is to protect our surroundings and keep it going.
And St. Lucia has some amazing fauna and flora. I'm wondering, you've been here a few times now. Have you managed to get up the pitons yet?
I have. The very first time I did. I saw that. That's the most famous thing to do in St. Lucia. That was a few years back. But I have to tell you something that I have been introduced to in St. Lucia, and that is your cocoa tea. And I have become a cocoa tea fanatic. And I had never heard of cocoa tea until I got to St. Lucia. And I've learned that cocoa tea, each family has their own version of cocoa tea. And they're very like, oh no, this is the way we make it. And then you talk to somebody else, no, we do it this way. And it's really fascinating. So I decided, I bought all the ingredients. and I decided I was going to make cocoa tea. And then I thought, okay, I'll Google. And I was amazed at how many, if you go on how to make cocoa tea recipes on Google, it's so many, it's so overwhelming how many different ways you can make cocoa tea. So this is something I really enjoy doing, is making cocoa tea. I bought all kinds of stuff. I gave it to my friends in Canada. They love it. And it's just like I am now a cocoa tea missionary.
I can tell you, every family has a cocoa tea recipe. I remember growing up in the UK, we couldn't get the sticks that often, but at Christmas my mum would make cocoa tea, and it would be the sort of at breakfast we would have cocoa tea, and that would mean it was Christmas, the presents were coming soon, so all my memories of cocoa tea are really happy ones.
Yes, and I made cocoa tea Christmas Day as well. It was fun.
On that note, I think we'll say thank you so much for sharing with us. It's been really great. Thank you for supporting the organisation and others, not just here in St. Lucia, but the region also. The funds are really vital. They help us reach very vulnerable groups that need it. So thank you to all of our Canadian family, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure being with you.
Who would have guessed that our very own cocoa tea would have captured the heart of Canada's High Commissioner? Thanks so much for those insightful views. And if there's anybody listening to this podcast who'd like to come on and share their own story, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can link us at delroy@sacredsportsinc.com. Call us at 758-450-0673. This podcast is kindly supported by the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives.
Home. Land of legacies, legends, and prosperity. I imagine way back then when St. Lucia was a cannon site, a constant back and forth fight. Back when the candlelight was dim and building our nation required a team. Gomunek team and my St. see when they try to put a halt to your freedom song, tell them to want to be free is not dumb. Yes, our people had to, but dignity, equality, fairness, equity, respect, independence are not fundamentally complex. The intention was not for them to be fought for in order to be possessed. So when faced with uncertainty, challenged by adversity, there is no maybe and no might. Together, tell them your rights.
To be equal and free are rights we should all enjoy. To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. This Is Me is a youth support and gender identity program presented by the Sacred Sports Foundation and supported by the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. To be equal and free are rights we should all enjoy. To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. This Is Me is a youth support and gender identity program presented by the Sacred Sports Foundation and supported by the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives.